everybody, I'm Liz and it is officially April, so I am here to talk about the 3 books I finished in March and then also talk about the books I am currently reading for April. The first book I finished in March happened to be a read I was reading throughout the end of February and well into mid to late March. And that is The Book of M by Pang Shepherd. And I absolutely loved this book. It is almost 500 pages long, which is part of the reason why it took me so long to read it. Plus, with the renovations of my guest bedroom and everything else, it just took quite some time to read it. But I still really enjoyed it, and I really always wanted to jump back in and read it and enjoy the words. The writing style, the world building was so immersive, so amazing, as it takes place in a modern future America that is plagued by an occurrence where shadowless people are popping up around everywhere, and when these people lose their shadows, they lose their memories over time until they forget something vital and important to survival, like remembering to eat or drink water or even breathe oxygen. And so this takes place in several different points of view, and everything kind of wraps up together in the end. We have our main character, Ori, who is the husband to Max, who just lost her shadows 4 years after the first shadowless occurrence. And they are trying to get everything together. They're trying to spend the last days they have with her memory together until Max decides to leave. And now he's on a journey to find her and reunite with her. And so the other point of view is in these recordings that Max is making during her journeys away from Ori and trying to remember everything she can. The other point of view is Naz. She is an Indian who immigrated to America to train to be in the Olympics, and she is dealing at the time where the first shadowless person comes upon the world and wreaks everything in havoc as the shadowlessness spreads. And then we have the amnesiac, or the one who gathers. He's a mythical person in the heart of New Orleans, and it's essentially a beacon for the shadowlessness to come and seek refuge, and also everyone else to seek refuge for utopia. And also he's trying to find a cure for the shadowlessness. It is very interesting. I absolutely adored this book. I had one quick issue with it, which was pretty much resolved as the book wore on. The world, because the shadowlessness, as they forget memories, they become more powerful and magical. They've created these horrors and these dangerous creatures and these hodgepodge of things. And so it was kind of weird seeing some of those alike without a whole lot of background to it. But as the story wounds on and grows, you get that more in-depth explanation on this whole shadowlessness and magic. So I still really loved it, and I definitely will give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished Leigh Bardugo's Wonder Woman Warbringer, which is part of their DC Icon series. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to continue on with the DC Icon series, but this takes place with a teenage Diana who eventually becomes Wonder Woman, and she has rescued a mortal from a shipwreck and finds out that she is a warbringer from a descendant of Helen of Troy. And so now she embarks on this journey to save her while also saving her planet and preventing a world war from happening. It was really good. I actually really liked most of the story. I had a few issues, particularly in some repetitive word choices, and I had a little issue, a little quirk about this sentence, and I really shouldn't have, but it just kind of irked me because it talked about holding her hands like a sterile surgeon, and I felt like it didn't quite fit with the narrative. I also felt like some things in this book happened too conveniently, like they found a lantern with oil in it in an abandoned chapel. They found the only car they found in this deserted area was an electronic car that they could hack and get working. Stuff like that. It just seemed a little too convenient. But other than that, I did really enjoy the story. And there was some shocks and surprises in store as Diana starts to understand the mortal world more because she's been on Themyscira her whole life. And so it was very enjoyable, and I definitely am glad I read it, and I read it through listening to the audiobook, and so I can give this about a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished, which is one that I've been anticipated to read it since last year, is Autobiography by the author duoship Christina Lauren. This book is a fantastic contemporary story where the male main character is bisexual, moves to Provo, Utah, of all places, which is a very LDS religious community where they take up about 90% of the population, which is something I didn't know even though I live in the Greater Salt Lake area. And the Greater Salt Lake area has about 60% of an LDS population. Anyway, so this male lead, Tanner, decides to sign up for his last semester of senior year for a seminar class where you write a novel in one semester, and the TA for that class happens to be somebody who succeeded the year before in creating this novel that's going to be published into the world and is really highly sought after. And as soon as Tanner sees him, he falls completely smitten for him. But this TA named Sebastian happens to be an LDS Mormon with a bishop for a father, very strict and stringent in his teachings. He very much so believes in it. And so the main story is whether or not Sebastian will ever like Tanner, and then also if they could form a relationship, especially with the connotations of the LDS religion, where even though you can have same-sex attraction, you cannot act on those feelings. I felt like the way they portrayed Provo and Utah Mormon culture was done very well. I grew up in the LDS community. I was a part of the LDS church but left as a teenager. So I do definitely see a lot of this. I felt for a lot of the Mormon culture represented in here and the bi rep represented in here with the connotations and the bi-phobia and some of the bi stereotypes that our character has to explain to people and explain to his parents, and how he feels like sometimes over-supportive parents are trying to overcompensate for themselves because they're not quite sure how to react to a bisexual relationship. And I definitely really appreciate this. It does have a lot of homophobia in the book based upon Utah LDS culture, so be aware of that, and also with the biphobia. But I felt like it was done very well. Everything was explained very well, and even the way Christina Lauren explains the LDS religion, it is very tasteful. Like, they do a good job on not trying to completely trash and dismantle the religion, because there's a lot of good things about the religion, barring the LGBT side of the religion spectrum, which has a lot of issues still, but people are trying to fight them and make it feel like they're more accepted and more accepting. So I definitely did appreciate a lot of the things in this book. There are a few things that completely blindsided me that I was not okay with. Particularly, there's a situation in the plot point that happens with Tanner and his best friend Autumn. Not okay with it at all, and I'm not quite sure the way they solved it and settled it was forgiving in the whole situation. And I also felt like even though Tanner's parents were really supportive of him in the home, they kind of weren't being supportive because they told him to keep his bisexuality a secret. I know it was for a good reason because I didn't want him to be bullied. It just left an unsettling feeling in my stomach because I wanted them to be fully supportive out of the home as well as in the home, and so it just kind of felt flat for me. But like I said, I did enjoy the story. A lot of it has some good things. There's just a few things that I wasn't okay with, and so I'm sitting with kind of a 3.5, 4-star rating at this time. I'm not quite sure my overall rating yet. I still have a lot of things to think about. Alright, so that wraps up what I've read in March. I read 3 very interesting stories and I enjoyed them for the most part. Now we have what I'm currently reading, which we have A Land of Permanent Goodbyes by Atia Obawi. This is another really anticipated read since last year. It is about the Syrian conflict and how refugees are fleeing Syria to get into Greece to safety. It follows this specific family and it's sad, guys. I've cried, teared up so many times already. And I'm only about 30% of the way through. So if you do read this book, prepare for some really harsh emotional feelings and really harsh depictions about terrorism and death, especially gory deaths, as there's executions. So be wary and prepare for the feels. The last book I am also currently reading is The Speaker by Tracy Chee. This is a sequel to a book I read previously, which is The Reader. I'm just barely started it and I'm pretty excited to see where it goes with Seraphina's story as she can cast spells and magic with her knowledge of reading the spell books, as books are banned in this world because books bring magic and spellcraft. It's been very interesting, and there's been all this collusion and the secret society of assassins and book readers and spellcasters, and I'm just really excited to see what is in store and see how they wrap up this conflict. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Also, let me know what you're currently reading and what your favorite book was in March. I love you guys, and I hope you continue to support me. So if you like this video, please like it, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel for more notifications. I post every Tuesday and Friday. And so until next time, I love you guys. Bye!